Chair recognizes Ms. Stansbury from New Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Administrator. I know it's been a very long day, and actually I'm grateful for the commentary that was made just before I began this opportunity to ask some questions and talk about today's hearing, because I think it's important to emphasize the statements that were just made, that a new day is coming on January 20th. And for any of you who are listening at home, what they're referring to is the inauguration day, when the Trump administration comes in and begins their purge of civil servants. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because, yes, we're here to discuss a very serious matter. And absolutely, under no condition should politics be the reason why someone is denied basic dignity, access to emergency resources, and comity by our colleagues, whether that's emergency aid in their homes or access to the bathroom here in the Capitol. And so I think it's important that we talk about what is actually motivating this hearing. Now, I want to take a moment. I'm a former federal employee. I used to work at OMB. Many people know that here on the committee. But I think a lot of people don't fully understand what FEMA does, its emergency response. And I want to say thank you to you and all of your team. During this summer's historic and catastrophic fires in my district, in Ruidoso and Mescalero Apache, you came to our district, your staff were on the ground immediately, and you deployed every possible resource. And I can tell you unequivocally that it was the best response I have ever seen to a natural disaster in my lifetime. And I can tell my colleagues across the aisle, that area is very much an area that votes Republican. And those of us in New Mexico, we don't care. We don't care what your political affiliation is. We're going to show up. If you're in need, if you need help, if you're having an emergency, we're going to show up. We're going to help. And so obviously all of us are deeply disturbed to learn of this incident. It sounds like the person was disciplined and dismissed, and so we're grateful for that. But I find it odd that we're having a hearing where my colleagues have spent how many hours now? 6, 8, I don't even know at this point, gaslighting us. You know, like, here we are, we're having this hearing about an incident which is totally unacceptable, and yet the gentleman who's about to take office, the president-elect, deliberately and outspokenly withheld aid from his political rivals, from the state of California, from Puerto Rico, from communities that he knew did not vote for him. And so I just find it bizarre that we're even having this hearing. And one of the things that I do think is important to emphasize is that the single most impactful thing that happened during those 2 hurricanes that happened in the October timeframe was the disinformation that dissuaded people in emergency situations from going and getting individual aid in their homes. I don't know how many people felt like they didn't get direct service from FEMA or other emergency responders, but what we do know, because the data tells us, is that there was a disinformation campaign by the candidate who was running for president, members of this committee who were spreading disinformation, and we know that thousands of people in North Carolina and across the South and Florida didn't even go and ask for assistance, even though they qualified for emergency assistance for housing, for hotels, for food, and things like that. So if we want to talk about threats to emergency response, emergency management to our communities, let's talk about one of the biggest threats, which is disinformation and eating away at the emergency services that help our communities. And I want to just close on this note, because I believe that the purpose of this committee is actually the real pretext of what's going on here is that we know, as was just stated by my friend across the aisle, that on January 20th, a new day is coming. And one of the things that we know is that a conservative agenda was put forward by the Heritage Foundation and others in Project 2025, and it called for the privatization, shrinking, and the doing away with certain parts of FEMA and emergency insurance. They are trying to distract from the fact that they know that is what's coming, that is part of the plan. They have not passed an emergency package that they were calling for to help our communities just a month and a half ago, that suddenly, well, we can't pass legislation because we don't need to get it done. So I think it's really important that the American people understand what this is. We are going to have to fight to protect our federal employees against what we know is going to be an active purge. And I want to say to all of you and to all of our first responders out there, thank you for the jobs that you do. Thank you for the lives that you save. We appreciate you so, so much, and we're going to fight for you.